Okay, so there are many effects of tariffs. There are like 9 or 10 that we'll do today. But for some reason, somebody has explained or discussed only effect number 1 with Donald Trump. Somebody conveniently left out effects 2 through 9. Maybe Trump did, maybe somebody did, maybe that's just the way it is. Maybe 2 to 15, depending on how you count. So let's do it, okay? So what's a tariff? A tariff is a tax on imports. As simple as that. Let's say this piece of aluminum or steel, it's a pen actually, costs $10. It's coming from China. And you want to protect domestic steel, domestic aluminum. You make this more expensive. The thinking is you slap a tariff on this so people will buy the American version. Now, the thing with trade is it seems so intuitive and so commonsensical. It's not. I much prefer teaching macro to trade because macro actually is intuitive and it goes along those lines of intuition. You lower interest rates, good things happen. You raise interest rates, things slow down. Trade, this seems so intuitive to mom and pop America. Okay, slap a tariff on this, so make this, put a 50% tax on Chinese aluminum or steel. So instead of $10, this is $15. Therefore, now you'll buy the American piece of steel and aluminum. It's so intuitive. Block those things coming from overseas so we do better. Very intuitive, seems logical. Sadly, it's not. So let me show you everything. And before we even go to the diagrams, here is a very important fact. Please store this away, folks. I'm not making any of this up. Only 8.4%, that's 8.4, of our labor force is in manufacturing. 8.4. It used to be 30 back in the day, 50s and 60s. Now, assembly line, clink, clink. I'm living here in Allentown, that song, clink, whoop, clink, whoop, Billy Joel. That's gone. 8.4%. And yet, and please listen carefully, if you looked at the value of all the manufacturing we are doing, the GDP, if you took the manufacturing in America and made it into a country, gross domestic product, we would be the 7th largest in the world. So you can look this up, like I'm sure all of you do now. You're trained to immediately go to your phones and fact check. Please do. 7th largest in the world. So you're thinking, okay, so then what's the problem? There may not be a problem. Do I dare say that? But let's just go step by step. So 8.4%, 7th largest? Yeah, because there are no workers. It's when Lewis and I were in Vietnam and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and wherever we go for these manufacturing trips with the embers, it's robots. It's large robots making things, capital-intensive production now. Everywhere. Here, Vietnam, China, America, Europe, shoe factories. You think sneaker factories. No, there are hardly any workers in sneaker factories. Forget here, Vietnam. Like robots, like those that dinosaurs, like Jurassic Park, but robots instead, and large banks of computers, large banks of data, large computer automated systems. Workers aren't there. 7th largest in the world in terms of manufacturing. So store that away. All right. Let's now go to the diagram and let me show you tariffs. Effects 1 through 9 or 12, whatever you like. Okay, so let's share. Let's go to Microsoft Whiteboard. And here we go. All right, let me get, and here's the deal, folks. If you have questions, please just yell it out because now I'm in Whiteboard. I've maximized my space here. I can't see you. So just go ahead and speak, unmute yourselves. There's little three dots up there. Unmute yourselves and ask the question. There is a lag, I know. Don't worry about interrupting. If you think it's a question everyone needs to know and understand, ask it. If it's not super important, put it in the chat and I will then be able to see all the chats. Oscar is there too. Oscar is going to, and Oscar, thank you for being in. He actually drove in from Connecticut just to make it for this session. So Oscar, if you could just take screenshots of everyone here so I can see who was here tonight, and also capture the chats. I know in the recording, I am recording, right, folks? Yeah. In the recording, I will have a separate file with the chats. And what I do normally is I will email you all, the whole group, with answers to some of the recurring questions or the main questions in the chats. Okay, so everybody, all the questions will be answered. So that's the format. But again, stop me anytime. So let's go with black. So here we ask, this is a partial equilibrium story of a tariff. Here is domestic demand. Let's call this D, domestic demand. This is country A. A is going to be America from now on, all right? The domestic country is going to be A. This is the price of steel, and this is the quantity of steel. Let's call it Y. Steel. And those of you who have never seen this before or seen it a long time ago, it's a demand curve. As the price of anything falls, the price is this much. Demand is, say, 10. Price falls down to 2. Demand increases. So as the price falls, demand increases. Okay, so it's a demand curve. And here is a domestic supply of steel, which is upward sloping. So as the price of any price increases of steel, suppliers make more steel. So supply curve is upward sloping. As the price of anything goes up, the supply goes up. As the price of anything goes up, the demand, this demand goes down. Okay, so there are two sides to every coin. And when you superimpose supply and demand, as you've all seen in my classes or in all other classes, this is P0. This is the market price of steel. Let's say it's 50. So this is an endogenous price. Endogenous means market driven. Okay, so American steel is there at 50. Now let's use green. And let this be, well, Chinese steel. And I can't go into the reasons why Chinese steel is cheaper. So this is P world, but let's say it's 30. The labor is cheaper. They're more efficient at making steel. So it's called, they have a comparative advantage in steel. They're doing steel more efficiently. They're doing textiles. They're doing pajamas. They're doing standardized semiconductors more efficiently. So it's cheaper. So here we go. This is the world price, horizontal line. This is our home price, 50. So it's more expensive at home. So let's say this here, let's go back to black. Let's say this is 150. Let's say this here is 250. So what this means is that, folks, at this world price, P world, which is China, let's say that's the world, the rest of the world here, this green line. So this price here, 30, and this is the black line here, the domestic supply. Domestic supply from here to here is below the green line. So from here to here, it's cheaper for us to make at home. We're below the green line. So basically 0 to 150, let's call this Y0. Let's call this Y1. 0 to Y0 is domestic production. Because from 0 to 150, the black line is below the green line, we can make steel cheaper. And look at this, from 0 to 250, that's domestic demand. So here is the green line, it's hitting the demand curve here. So 0 to Y1 is domestic demand. So at this green price, we are making this much steel at home. We are demanding this much steel at home at this green line. So what is this gap in here? Let's change colors. Let's go orange. So what is this gap? Can someone tell me? So we are consuming this much steel at home, where it's the demand curve. We are making this much steel at home. So this gap here, 100.
The surplus, Farrokh.
Yeah, hi Joe, how are you? So this is excess demand. What is that though? Where is it coming from? So we're looking
Imports,
for
Professor. Import.
yes, hi, Krish. So this is imports.
I'm sorry, that's not Krish, that's Smriti. Nice to see all of you, Professor.
Hi. Okay. My my little computer is saying Krish for some reason.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's my son's login. Couldn't get out of it.
That's what it is. So imports. So these are the imports. Okay, so we make this much at home. We import that much, and so we can consume 250. This is the world. Now here comes Trump in this case and decides, let me protect steel workers, aluminum, car makers. You can go on and on and on. It's mind-boggling, actually. 1890, 1930, um, early Reagan era, then Biden, every 40 years. I'll come to this again. Frankly, I didn't even notice this till all this happened a few days ago. Every 40 years, we have this, our brains just go dead and we just want to repeat our old mistakes again. It's bizarre. It's almost like a Twilight Zone kind of thing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's say we want to protect steel here. All right, steel important to the country, cars, solar panels, take your pick, aluminum. So we put a tariff on Chinese steel. So we make it tariff Chinese steel now 40 bucks. So let's take red and let's put a slap of tariff on Chinese steel. And now you're making it 40 bucks. So there is a $10 per steel bar. This is tariff, which is $10. And so now the world price has gone up to 40. Let's call this W2, and let's call this, sorry, Y2. Let's call this Y3. Okay, here are some huge takeaways, folks. Stay with me here. So the world price has gone up to 40. Okay, so now we've slapped a tariff. Listen carefully now. China still gets 30. So for some reason, Mom and Pop America and Mom and Pop Planet are not understanding this, no matter how many times this has been explained. China still gets 30. China does not get 40. Uncle Sam pockets this difference. So the plan is Trump government will pocket this difference and build walls and subsidize things and electric vehicles, and Leonard Musk might do something with it, who knows. So China still gets 30. We are the schmoes at home who are paying 40 to Uncle Sam. So all of you who are buying an SUV, like I'm a Subaru Forester, for example, I pay 25% tariff. I'm the schmo that's paying 25% more. Japanese didn't get that. And when you buy like steel here or solar panels or aluminum, let's say you bought a sack, let's say you did, it won't show tariff. It'll show currency destination adjustment or some sort of a euphemism. You know, you never find it. It's in there. We are the schmoes who are paying 40. I'm repeating myself, I know. China is still getting 30. Okay. Who is better off now? What has happened to domestic production now that prices have gone to 40? Or let's just talk about before that. Let me explain the 40 price. Well, so then buy American. You got a problem with the tariffs? Don't buy Chinese steel. Don't buy Chinese aluminum. Don't buy European aluminum or steel. Buy good old American steel from Allentown, Pennsylvania, or Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Don't buy the imported stuff. Here's takeaway point number 2. So 2 through 9, somebody didn't tell Trump or Trump maxed out at 1, which I don't know. I have to be careful here. It's all being recorded. If I disappear, tell the world my story. Langdana was a good man, a kind, loved small animals. Anyway, I got to focus here. So here's another takeaway, folks. All steel becomes expensive right away. This isn't an opinion, this is a fact. Domestic and foreign, imported steel becomes whoop. Domestic steel, whoop. catches up almost instantaneously. Domestic cars, imported cars, whoop. American cars, if there's any such thing, whoop. You can see this price here. Every steel, all steel goes to 40. Why? And this is a fact. We've done this every 40 years, and every 40 years. What happened? And Trump is trying to bully domestic makers. Don't you dare raise prices. Markets operate endogenously. If you try and prevent domestic prices from rising, you get a black market. Or car sellers, let's say cars. Don't you dare raise car prices when I put tariffs on imported prices. I'm going to be very, very upset because I'm doing a very, very beautiful thing here. Well, domestic car makers will stop giving you anything for your trade-ins, for example, or there'll be a black market. But before that, explain to me, why do all prices go up? Somebody, speak up. Put a tariff on imported steel. Why does domestic steel go up? You'll have to talk, folks. I'm not going into chats.
Demand goes down.
Yeah. Hey, Cliff. Yeah.
Is it because they can charge more?
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
market
John.
pricing.
Wow.
It's market pricing.
Who
Good
is this?
Maha.
Maha.
Yes,
My
sir.
God. Singapore.
That's right.
Yes, folks. So listen, there is a demand for steel. Cars, houses, furniture. People need steel. Now, so imported steel has gone up. What will you immediately do? You switch over to domestic. Not just you switch over to domestic, but the futures for domestic steel, they'll go up now in a nanosecond for future delivery. The forward market will jump up now. So that excess demand goes into domestic steel, and wham, domestic steel rises to the same price. This is not a theory. This is what happens. So, okay, so all steel goes up. You can't bully it. You can't tell markets not to be endogenous. Then you get black markets. Then you become North Korea. I don't even want to comment on that. And so, no, it's a horrible thought. And so all prices go up, not just imports. So in all that stuff about, well, then don't buy imports. No, man. All SUVs go up, all steels, all solar panels, all shoes, whatever you're protecting, the domestic version goes up too. That demand doesn't go away. It switches over. So here we go. So now, who's happy here? Look at domestic steel makers. Where are they now? And you'll have to talk to me.
Y2.
0 to Y2.
Hey, Shekhar. Yes, 0 to Y2. 0 to Y2. Look at this. So now 0 to Y2, this line. So this, they're below the red line up to Y2. So from here to here, their production has increased. So steel is happy. Steel makers are happy. The champagne is coming out. If you parked yourself in steel as an investment, listen very carefully now. I'm saying something here. You are doing well. Whatever, as we will see, McKinley tin plate. I'll take you there later on. You robber barons happened back then. Today they're called oligarchs. We have oligarchs in our country now, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. Russians don't have the monopoly on oligarchs anymore. And we always had them. FDR and Rockefeller and before that and before that. And so here at JP Morgan. So here we go, folks. Steel's better off. They're happy. Wow. Who is worse off? What happens to domestic consumers?
Price goes
to PW.
Press bank. So here we go. Yes, we were initially from here to Y1. And now the price is at 40. Domestic demand has gone down. So now 0 to Y2. That is increased. I'll send you a link to the recording, folks. Increased domestic production. So these guys are happy. However, at the expense of the rest of the country. 0 to Y3 is lower domestic consumption. of steel. Why is that? Price has gone up.
Yeah, because price has gone up.
Yes, and so what you have, price has gone up, there's a lower demand. And remember, folks, what's missing? Trump is seeing just step one. Conveniently, or he's only been told, or he's maxed out. That's his economic understanding there. And I'm being generous here. So this thing here, cars are going up. Canned food is going up. Soda, anything canned is going up. Housing is going up. Furniture is going up. So we have this negative multiplier effect. Now we are spinning. We got a negative multiplier effect. Look at imports. Imports have gone down. So China is hurting in the sense we are buying less from them, but we are paying through the nose. We're getting more inflation. And in Smoot-Hawley, in the 1930s, let me just finish
Farrokh,
this.
isn't the negative multiplier offset by the increased steel production domestically? Because Dean,
exactly. So please understand, folks, and this was the part of the trade class I couldn't tell you. When you import steel, you have a comparative disadvantage, if you remember from class. That means whenever you are an importing industry, that's the scarce factor. There is another half of the story where we're exporting all the stuff we're exporting, R&D, pharma, innovation, technology, agriculture. That's the abundant factor. So this is the scarce factor. There is no way these guys are in the majority. 8.4% are in manufacturing. Completely. Much less so in steel. So this is the scarce factor. It's called the Heckscher-Ohlin theorem, and I'm sorry, I can't show you all that. That's the first half of the class. And I'm going to read out something. I've got something shrunk for you from the Wall Street Journal. The title is Trump's Tariff War Was a Loser. That's the Wall Street Journal from 2023. They analyzed what happened with the steel tariffs, and they have numbers, and I'm quoting from that, and it's shrunk here. I'm going to read it out to you. So it's not just Langdana, it's the Wall Street Journal. It's not New York Times, it's the Wall Street Journal. So I'm going to read it out to you later. More. Okay, it's coming. But that's actually an exam question last week. That was a very good question, but that's the scarce factor. So imports have gone down, inflation has gone up, and this is now step 2 is done. There's a lot more coming. All right, folks, what is country B going to do? Any questions before I scroll down? That's why I use Microsoft screen whiteboard so I can scroll. So just to summarize, these guys seem like they're doing great. Steel prices have gone up for the whole country. Everyone else is suffering. I'll never forget, quick anecdote. Louis, God bless him, he's here. He's not taken time off from his vacation. He's hanging out here with us. He and I were in the Cadillac SUV plant in Shanghai some years ago. There were only like 15 workers. It was all robots. And I remember one of the students, executive MBAs next to me, and maybe here, said, Farrokh, thank God my father-in-law's not here. He's at home thinking he's driving an all-American car. That's a Cadillac SUV. It's made here in Shanghai. But there are no Chinese. And I said, no, it was like, and SUVs were rolling out at this speed. I'm not exaggerating. And Louis is there. Clink, clink, at that speed. They were rolling. And so the manager was this blonde lady from Michigan. And she was an executive MBA from Michigan, Ann Arbor, I think. And just happy and bubbly. And remember, Louis? And I feel bad. This is Trump 1.0. And then I said, what about the tariffs that are about to come? She just deflated. The air just went out of her. And she said, Farrokh, I'm flying to Washington tomorrow to explain to them that they are hurting. If we could mute, please, that'll be great. So they're hurting us, Cadillac. That tariff is going to wipe out. We have razor-thin profit margins, and they're going to wipe us out. Steve, Cadillac. assembling in Shanghai. And she said, I'm going to Washington. And I said, how are you going to explain this? I said, I can't throw diagrams at them. I know them, you know them, Farrokh. I could explain to them that they're hurting us. And guys, can we please mute, if you don't mind? Thank you. Allergies are kind of crazy. And so she said, not only that, but I have kids here in the international school, which are actually very good schools, by the way, who were in China. Most of the students we taught have the kids there. I'm going to have to pull my kids from there, and I got a trailing husband. You know, expats have spouses who kind of have to schlep along with them. And so, long story short, didn't work. She was back to Michigan, along with the trailing husband, pulled the kids out of school. And the executive MBAs came to me and said, Farrokh, you had to ask her that question. And I said, man, I wish I hadn't. But it's an important anecdote. And it just shows how these ripple effects are all over. They hurt us. Let's go to steps 3. What will country B do? So country B, China. What will country B do? Country B, let's go. Yeah, well, red is good. China. So domestic demand, supply, and this is B. Country B is China. Now, keep in mind, China or Europe or whoever you want has lost face. What will they do? We've slammed
Impose
steel.
counter tariffs.
Yes, thank you. So here we go on stuff that they're buying from us. So China is now they're sucked into this vortex that's spiraling down. Everyone's being sucked in downward vortex, downward spiral. What do they buy from us? Well, agriculture for sure. So here is why agriculture. So wheat, pork, chicken, let's put it all in there. Poultry, soybeans, sorghum, I still don't know what that is, but we sell a lot of it. Price of agriculture, and this is China, and China does not have a comparative advantage. So P0, let's say at 250. China doesn't have a lot of arable land, by the way. There's a whole lot of desert, there's a whole lot of mountain. We sure do have arable land, Canada, us, Argentina, Brazil. Okay, so here we go. Here is the world price. So let's say this is the American price. So P world. So this is, let's say, US. Let's say that's 200. So this is the world price of food. We bang out food. We are giants in agriculture. And here we are, China. This is China, Y0, Y1, 500. So this is domestic demand. 0 to Y1 is, let's say, 675. And so this is what they import from America, agriculture. And so now it's spinning out of control now. And hey, Cliff, could you please just mute, if you don't mind? Thank you very much. Good seeing you on the site. Thank you, Cliff. And so here we are. So these are imports of agriculture from the US, wheat, molasses, whatever. So now China is retaliating. Here we go. And they put a tariff on our wheat. So let's make it, let's use green. And it's now spent 225, let's say. So they put a $25 tariff on our wheat. And look at this, folks, 550. Let's make it 600. So 50 imports have gone down. And so look what's happened. China's price has gone up. It's P world plus tariff. So China has tariffs. So the trade war has begun. So the Europeans are threatening tariffs on American motorcycles, beef, American beef, whiskey, avionics. Not only that, by the way, but non-tariff barriers, non-tariff action also happens. They're going to say, you know what? That's what they're threatening. We're going to take off copyright protection on all your tech companies. So all the tech companies operating here, yeah, we can copy everything. Your AI is now going to be freeware for us. That's on the table. It's called a non-tariff barrier, which those of you who done trade with me will realize that's a worse one. That's tougher because tariffs, you can see how China is hitting on agriculture. Non-tariff barriers are nebulous. Oh, no, we can't allow your butter in here. It's too yellow. Or we can't allow your American apple juice in here. It doesn't have enough vitamin C, artificial barriers. Or you can't bid for European huge contracts, government contracts. No, we're not allowing you to bid for them. That's a huge chunk of income that's lost to us. Or the scariest one, IP rights. We won't protect IP property. They hate our tech companies. They always have. Amazon and all have social media. They've always been under the gun in Europe. So that's on the table right now, by the way. So let's stick with tariffs. But I'm just telling you, this baby has got steps 2 through 15, which Trump isn't aware of, or he's chosen not to be aware of. So now China is importing only 50 from us. What has happened to food prices in China? And many, Marty, if you're here, or people who were there with Marty the other night, talked about reciprocal tariffs. Hey, they're tariffing us. So what's wrong if we tariff them? Well, you guys tell me, what's happened here with the reciprocal tariffs? So China is now hitting back. What's happened to food prices in China?
It's on the rise.
Yes, Maha, their food prices also go up.
Farrokh, this is Naresh. So don't you think exactly he's doing this as a bargaining chip to bring them to their knees? And this is not going to, these graphs don't even matter to him. An economy, none of this matters to him. He's just doing it for people to fall on his knees because they know he's crazy.
The thing is, Naresh, hi Naresh, good seeing you here. Yeah, that's an argument that's put forward a lot. But the thing is, you reach a point when you either put your cards on the table or walk away. Now it's Liberation Day tomorrow or the day after. It's time's running out. And the thing is, you know what? It doesn't matter. The noise, the uncertainty you generate, look what it's done. Already supply chain managers are stocking up. Already prices, futures have gone up. Already corn inflation has tracked up. You saw what happened in the market yesterday. Corn inflation, which is the most important one, is nudging up. And look at the uncertainty. Long bonds are going crazy. So no, not good. This isn't the plumbers at Mar-a-Lago that you can bully and threaten and say, I'm not going to fix you till you redo the plumbing, or the gardeners at his Bridgewater Golf Club. And, oh no, I want you to redo the lawn. I'm not getting paid for the last 6 months. It's not that. This is a whole different ballgame. This is China who's lost face. Just the threat is enough to rile them. The damage is done. And the thing is now he kind of has to do something, or we're calling his bluff. The damage is already done.
One unwinding takes 3 to 7 years.
I'm sorry, Maha?
One unwinding act takes 3 to 7 years of impact.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the sad thing is, guys, while all this drama is happening, today's Monday, right? On Friday, last Friday, 35 environmental regulations were scrapped. 33 or 38, something like that. A huge number. So the real action is not happening here. This is lots of drama for the media to chase. And Rachel Maddow has 5 talking heads and they get all worked up. The real agenda is happening there in left field, out of sight. If you don't know where to look, you're going to miss it. Now, some deregulation is good, and that's a whole separate story, but a lot is happening. 35 major regulations in oil and gas quietly thrown away in one day. On Friday, just on Friday. Thursday was different. Wednesday was different. And as Maha said, each one of these is decades in the making. That's where the action is. And for us, by the way, in reality, our economy is this big. Our trade sector is this big. This is not Singapore and Maha. I'm sorry, but Singapore trade is everything. This is the timing for us. That's where the action is. But this is where the media is racing around because he's throwing those shiny balls and everyone's chasing them around. Anyway, let's stay on track. So there's an article here I'm going to read out for you. Look what happened before that. China, now tariffs are agriculture. They're buying less agriculture from us. However, the Chinese prices have also gone up. So that tit for tat now has hurt both countries. And retaliatory, and so this is Wall Street Journal 5 days ago. Okay. I'm going to read out this article. It's called Europe Arms for the Tariff War. Europe Arms for the Tariff War. I'm going to read out a paragraph. It says, the EU is likely to impose in April tariffs on American motorcycles, beef, and whiskey. So that's B hitting A. In response to the Trump steel and aluminum tariffs. April's tomorrow. Stepping up a notch, the EU and its member countries could ban specific imports. No bourbon, no Jack Daniels. We're all going to drink Scotch whiskey. Or block American companies from bidding for public procurement contracts. That's where the big bucks are. Cut out from that. And as Maha said, just to be part of that, by the way, was huge. It was part of the Single European Act. Then the WTO procurement contracts were a huge element in those negotiations. Huge, huge, huge.
Farrokh,
Cut out of that.
Farrokh, do you have more insight into the attack on the export of services from the U.S.? Because like you said,
Yeah,
that's
hang on, Chris, I'm coming. Come on.
Thank you.
Perfectly timed. And I think he had an 100 in the exam, Chris Banco. You had 100 in the exam.
At least.
You did. You did. Okay. I remember everything. So the danger, here we go. And this on top of all the other indignities, or the nuclear option for Europe is to stop enforcing intellectual property protection. Here you go. For American companies in Europe, such as the trademarks for large US companies, not enforcing intellectual property protection. The danger is that a trade war unleashes Europe's worst instincts. It's not an accident that France seems to be the ringleader, which is unfair. I've taught in France for 9 years, and the French actually love America, but forget that. Especially measures such as intellectual property provisions that would put brute force behind Paris's long-standing resentment over US tech companies. None of this would be smart for Europe's economy. This is the sentence I like. Think of it as the dumb and dumber trade war. So this retaliatory thing, this reciprocal stuff that J.D. Vance is throwing around, God bless him, is the dumb and dumber policy. Both sides, these guys are now paying more. Still, if Mr. Trump is going to sabotage America with protectionism, this is Wall Street Journal, not New York Times, not Mother Jones, he can't be surprised if other governments are willing to hurt themselves to retaliate. Willing to hurt themselves to retaliate. Sometimes the loss of face is so huge that you are forced. And the truth is, they can do a lot of damage to the US in the process. This is Wall Street Journal, March 26th, and the title is Europe Arms for the Tariff War. You can look it up.
Farrokh, isn't the goal, and I think it was stated earlier on the call, that in reality, he wants them to remove their existing tariffs and that he's leveraging the US buying power.
Dean, I just read for you.
Right.
The retaliatory thing makes both worse off. See, that's
yeah,
the
but the US and its economy is so much bigger and stronger. I think he's going to try to get them to cave eventually. How long can they hold out? Look at the trade volume and compared to GDP of the US and these other countries.
Let's look at what happened in the past. Exactly what you said was said in 1890, 1930, and the Reagan era, in Trump 1.0. Exactly what you said. What happens is they retaliate, our economy tanks, our stock market tanks, our tax revenues go down, our deficit, which is now much bigger than it was in Reagan's time, please note. And there was no deficit in the earlier. That's a whole separate, remember this, Dean, this is a separate guy that's in the story now. This is a horrible dark party that's happening. There's a new member who's gate crashed this party. That's the budget deficit. And he's non-sustainable already. And so suddenly you're having long bonds, which we did in class, going crazy. It will happen. That was part of my alumni event when I did Trump 2.0. It's on our blog page. Oscar will put in the link to the blog page. What you said has been said time, and we cave. It tanks. Bluffs don't work. We are not that powerful anymore. And you know, here, just a second, Louis, let me just finish this. And so you have to understand, folks, 70% of global trade, 7-0, is not like this. Agriculture and steel. This is a simple example. 70% of global trade, 7-0, is intra-industry trade. It's 40 countries making components for the iPhone. It's 300 countries making components for a jet engine. That's where the big bucks is. So even if you want a trade war, you know, people think, oh my God, the Chinese are hitting agriculture because it's the red states. No, agriculture is the few things that are all American, and that and bourbon. Everything else is made by 20 countries, all putting components together. Just for example, there is no American car. Even Tesla, 65 or 63% of all Teslas are made in America with American things. The rest are in order: Mexico, Canada, and then 3% in China. So 50% of all cars sold in America, at least 50%, are assembled overseas. All cars have at least 20% components made overseas, and there is no American car. So this is a new version of global trade that people haven't, in the textbooks in school, in college, it was coffee from there and jet engines coming to your country. Or in this case, a nice simple word, agriculture and steel. 70% of global trade is components which are capital intensive. Workers are not in the story. It's machines, computers. And you can't really have a trade war with that. Yeah, Louis, sorry.
No, I was just thinking what we're seeing from Canada and Canadians at this point is that they are so angry that they really are ready to take this to the limit.
They are, thank you, Louis. And one of biggest exports of America, and Chris, you mentioned services. One of the biggest exports we have is tourism. When we export tourism, it means tourists visit us. When tourists visit us, we're exporting tourism. That's a monster revenue maker. Much, much, much bigger, like 8 times bigger than any manufacturing, by the way. The planet loves to come here. Well, not so anymore. Canadians are skipping, the Brits are skipping. We are pariahs right now. And Icelanders are obviously skipping, but Greenlanders obviously skip, but Icelanders, and Louis and I have taught in Iceland, and they love them, right, Louis? Icelanders used to love us.
So Farrokh, you just said we are not as powerful as we were. And do you think it is?
No, I didn't say as powerful. We are actually militarily very powerful. I'm saying our global footprint economically is not as unilateral. We are tied to the rest of the world in everything we make.
So is it because of that free trade, and now he's trying to restore that a little bit to get the power back in terms of, even though it causes the severe damage right now?
There's no power lost, Naresh. There is no power lost. There is no, the economy here. Let me show you something else. This is what the economists said about our economy in October 2024. Economist. And the economy is very healthy. Aside from the deficit, which is getting bigger and bigger, and with his tax cuts next year, and you have to watch my Trump 2.0 in case you missed it. That was the whole thrust of that. It's on my blog page. We are great. You go down the Economist magazine's last page. We rock. 3.3% growth, sorry, 2.8%, 3% growth. Unemployment, yeah, not bad. Inflation, yeah, going up, but not bad. Deficits problem. But if you look at the envy of the world, Economist magazine, that what he should do for the blue collar workers who are hurting is basically allow them jobs. They have robotics, manufacturing, automation. We have a 15-month wait limit. And I've mentioned this before in some of my blogs. If you have a computerized stamping press, for example, say in Ohio, you have to wait 15 months for someone to service it. These workers could have done that. In Trump 1.0, when they were eating out of his hand, he could have had training programs for them to do that, because anything that has moving parts, even if it's run by a computer or run by a robot, or if it is a robot, needs guys to service it. I'm an engineer, I know. It needs guys, humans, to service them, okay? And he could have, instead of promising coal back and steel back, he could have done that. He didn't, and God bless them, now they still think he can. And maybe he can, but that's where the action is, as opposed to messing up the planet with inflation, tariff war, which is a downward spiral. I'm going to read out the verdict of Trump 1.0 after a few minutes.
Professor.
And see, all this makes sense. You know, you go to ShopRite, talk to the 5% first people you meet and say, well, keeping out Chinese products will help us. Yeah. Oh, I don't buy anything from China. I don't. Well, do you have a mortgage? If you have a mortgage, you almost certainly have capital that's recycled from China, which nobody talks about. The trade deficit means capital inflow. You know, so 40% of all our mortgages is recycled money from China. That's not even being discussed today, by the way, the capital part of this. And all of you know this from my macro class, right? You Wednesday night people, that's the national savings identity, NSI.
Yeah.
But then,
Yes,
Professor,
Professor.
isn't that a contraindicator to a strong economy, which you just made a point about, and recycle capital? Isn't that slapping your cheek to keep it red? It's an artificially.
No, Ankur, if you remember my class, you know, no one's putting a gun to the rest of the world by investing. This is the safest place to park your money. It's a strength. It's a signal of strength that the world is parking their money here. That is all we have. The US, and if you remember your finance, the risk-free rate from your CAPM model, if you've done that,
yeah,
that's the treasury rate. And it's not an opinion, it's the global risk-free rate. Why do you think China, 65% of all the money China made since China woke up in 1979, okay? 65% of all the money they made is in treasuries. They follow the money. This is the best deal. Why? Because we are safe. Our institutions are safe, or have been.
Professor Maha here, as you were just touching on that, people, as one of our co-students asked this question, saying that, is it not making the power to show the leverage to make them, put them to the knees and all that? The opposite side of it, which just now you touched, if the greenback people, if China leaves all that back into this, they sell away that green notes, that will have a severe impact.
Yeah.
The people don't understand that right now, whatever that 13 trillion and whatever that is there out there, if they just give away all the US dollars out, that's it.
Maha, you said it.
You're very right. And what is happening in the background, which has not been addressed here, and which nobody really focuses or notices, is that Japan has already announced that they're going to take money out, and China is already starting to take money out. So once that ripple effect takes effect, then other things will happen that we don't need to cover at this moment.
Yeah, and no one's talking about it. No, it's the other side. Remember, trade deficits, capital inflow.
Where are they going to put it? Where are they going to put it if they take it out? Oh, gold. Okay.
Yeah, gold is going crazy. So if you listen to me a few years ago and bought gold, you can buy gold from Costco, by the way.
Oh, I see that.
But isn't gold a dead asset? It's not an earning asset.
You know what? Do what you want to do. I have some goal. That's all I'm going to tell you. I
Do
can't
you
tell you
believe
what
at
to
all
do.
in targeted tariffs? For
Yeah,
instance,
so thank you. So let me just finish this. John, great hearing you. And I still think of you when I wear the jacket. In fact, I think this is the jacket.
wonderful.
So, John Grover, my God. How's your son?
He's doing very well. He actually started a new job today, and he lives in North Carolina.
Wait a minute. He was a little kid.
I know. He's a big kid now.
Oh my God. All right, let me power back up. This is very hard actually to stay focused. You know that. All right, so here we go. Another step. What will country B do? Now, both countries are paying more in inflation. Both have, and there's a book I use called The Choice. Many of you remember it in the trade class. Russ Roberts is the author, and he describes this retaliatory action or this reciprocal tariffs, as J.D. Vance calls it, as if your neighbor cuts off his nose to spite his face, why do you want to cut off your own nose to spite your face? So that's what this tantamounts to. And Wall Street Journal calls it the dumb and dumber policy. Step 3, what will China do? China has to eat. So let's go up here. They're only importing 50. So here comes country C, Canada, Argentina, Brazil. So you see now here's yet another effect. So now B now buys from C. Buys food, in this case, from C. So Canadians, Argentinians, and Brazilians are thrilled. Canada's agricultural exports have gone up almost 4%. And keep in mind, so now what I'm trying to show you here is supply chains change. Supply chains swing around. Now Argentina lights up, Brazil lights up. They weren't the first choice. American food was the first choice, cheaper, better. Now Brazilian beef, Argentinian beef, Canadian beef, pork, chicken, wheat. And so these guys are happy. They are doing well. So they light up. And so now what happens is supply chains change. And keep in mind, supply chains, especially in agriculture, they are long term. They're like 18 months, 2 years. You don't buy 6 million tons of beef for 2 weeks. It's for the next year. And often the supply chains don't swing back. And
What
two
about the
classic
beef? What about the beef, sorry, Farrokh, that was quarantined and shipped back in Guangzhou recently? Now the contracts to the farmers in the U.S. are struggling to figure out what to do with these, like you said, long-term contracts that they actually have, but they're no longer being honored.
Yeah. And the thing is, once we stop honoring, they stop honoring, and the farmers are going, hey, what did we do here? Pun intended, what's their beef? Sorry, couldn't resist, And so agriculture starts suffering. And we go, and plus, there's also non-tariff barriers. Oh, Americans use hormones. Oh, which we do. Oh, Americans do this. It's genetically modified. No, it's not tariff retaliation. It's genetically modified. So you get into that hole. It's called non-tariff barriers. Classic examples of supply chains that change and don't go back, and I mentioned this before in class, tea. There was no tea in India. So I'm from Bombay, India. Indians there. There was no tea until the Opium Wars. So the British had these Opium Wars, Queen Victoria's time, 1840s, 1845 or so. And they thought, man, if the Chinese restrict tea, because the upper classes were drinking tea in England, we have a problem. We need a plan B. We need to find another base for tea. And so they, looked at the globe and they spun the globe around. Do we own that? Do we own that? We own that? What is that? India? We own that? Assam looks like the same latitude. So they kidnapped 4 tea planters from China, and they brought them to Assam in India with tea plants, which they stole. The tea plants died, so they stole some more, and tea finally took hold in India. And to my surprise, there was no tea. And I used to make this big drama flying to China, flight attendants would come and say Chinese tea or English tea, and I would make this big drama. I would actually argue with the flight attendants saying it's not English tea, it's Indian tea. Tea's from India. No, there was no tea in India until the Opium Wars. North Indians drank buttermilk. South Indians drank coffee. Same thing with Egyptian cotton. There was no cotton in Egypt till the American Civil War. And the southern ports were blockaded. And so the Brits, again, spinning the globe, do we own this? We own that? What is that? Egypt. Looks like it might work. Same latitude. Egyptian cotton. That was the plan B. And supply chains happen. Yet another effect is, here we go, and Lewis and I, we love using this expression, 51-foot walls. 51-foot ladders, actually. And some of you are rolling your eyes because I use this all the time in class. So the Chinese have this great expression, right? And you've all heard it from me. Unless you just met it, you've heard it from me ad nauseum. If you build a 50-foot wall, as the Chinese have taught us, somebody will invent a 51-foot ladder. It's called transshipment. In other words, no one really pays the tariff. So you slap a tariff on Chinese products or products from Europe or wherever. What happens is, in China's case, in Trump 1.0, they shipped it through Vietnam. It said made in Vietnam, no tariff. And Vietnam boomed to the extent that the executive MBA program visited it the last 2 years. They're actually building a deep water port in Vietnam because they didn't have one, and now they need a deep water port to export all that stuff, which is really China's exports. So 51-foot ladders come up. People swing around tariffs. Quotas, same thing. Made in Cambodia, if we catch Vietnam, maybe made in Malaysia after that, or Myanmar. We keep chasing them around. They'll keep transshipping it. Even non-tariff barriers. Here's a great example.
Farrokh, when they transship it, they cut the prices back down to what we were paying before, right?
Yes, yeah. Transshipment means
don't
like
get all that extra cost, do they?
No. So transshipment, Vietnam has no tariff, so it's swinging in free. At the same price.
Yeah, but the consumer's paying for the new price to move it over there, stamp it, and then send it out, right?
No. China's adjusting it. China's,
Okay.
so and the adjustment is phenomenal. So we had a lady in the program, happened to be Chinese, huge. So her company made flagpoles, and the mechanism of the flagpoles for every American post office, every Costco. Lewis, you remember her, right? Every Target. She was that big. Every post office, the flag was American. The flagpole, excuse me, made by her. Sorry, guys. So when the Trump tariffs happen on aluminum, that's her profit margin. She's gone. She had 800 workers working for her. So she came into the executive MBA class in trade and was telling us. She pulled over on the turnpike in tears. She said, "Oh my God, it's over." She calls home. China talks to her and says, "No, we're going to make sure you keep your 800 workers. Whatever, we'll adjust some taxes. We'll do something at the back end. We'll adjust it here." And they fixed it at the back end. Here we slap a tariff on them. They're eating it there at the back end. They're doing what they have to do right away. Those 800 workers who were here, by the way, in the US, were all saved. Amazing, quick response story. So what I'm saying is, you open that door, 50-foot door, try and build a 50-foot wall, those ladders fly all over the place. Here's one.
But Professor, at the same time, it seems like there is some sort of a paradigm shift in the sense that comparative advantages are shifting, right? And they don't come back, you're saying. They shift and they don't come back.
So tell me, I'm going to stop sharing here and tell me more what you're saying here.
So you're saying that
Hi, Cliff, yeah.
Hi. Yeah, so Well, first of all, let's frame this. When you were sharing diagram A, you had mentioned in terms of percentages that manufacturing was 8.4% of the U.S. GDP. When you drew diagram B,
no, I didn't say that. No.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I said the labor force, the number of workers, was 8.4% of the labor force. But if you looked at the GDP of manufacturing, you with me, Cliff?
Yeah.
If you looked at the value, which was it would be the 7th largest country in the world. Huge. We are huge in manufacturing. How many times do I have to repeat this for people to get it? We are giants in manufacturing, but there are no guys going, clink, I'm living here in Allentown, clink. That is not happening. It is now.
Just in terms of comparison, what percentage of the Chinese GDP is agriculture?
Very low. So we have a comparative advantage in agriculture, which is why we export agriculture. We've done the class together. China doesn't have agriculture. That's why China buys food and imports food. China does not have agriculture. And God bless them, the little they have, the chickens fall sick all the time. The hens fall sick. So that's why, remember, and where does what does comparative advantage come from? You take the abundant factor, use it intensively, Hexerolian theorem, you've done all that. Comparative advantage. But
yeah, so then going back to my comment made before, by country B going to country C,
country C has a comparative advantage in agriculture. Country C's have comparative advantage. They're all exporting agriculture. It's just that we had the most comparative advantage. Now they're going to Canada, which also has a comparative advantage in agriculture and food and beef, and Brazil and Argentina. So they're going to the 3 other countries who we used to beat out.
But at the same, who we used to beat out. But at the same time, then, now when country B buys from country C, you're saying that production, that consumption never comes back.
Often never comes back.
Yeah. So then we lose the comparative advantage.
We lose that market. Yeah. So that's what trade does. As you remember, when you distort trade with tariffs, you're moving down on that lower indifference curve, Cliff. You're tearing the country away from its endogenous. You are not unleashing the country fully. So every time you force the country to do more manufacturing or more something which it's not really good at, you're at a lower efficiency, is what you're saying. Yeah, exactly.
In my view, that's the bigger problem.
Yeah, there are huge bigger problems. The biggest one really is what I think Dean and Wolfgang mentioned, is the capital inflow. Let me just focus on the tariffs today. But the capital inflow is what keeps me up at night. Because if that baby goes, or if Trump ties the treasuries to crypto, then it's game over. That'll be poison. Crypto will be like arsenic inside the treasuries, and it'll rot them from the inside. And then I don't even know how to answer that.
So, Farrokh, what about the fact that these tariffs are going to fund tax cuts?
Oh, come on, man. That's as meaningful as Lewis and I levitating.
Isn't that
or you will buy that? Actually, I'm a Nobel laureate, but Amazon misplaced the award. If you buy that,
isn't that just basic Econ 101? Doesn't tariffs raise prices, which decreases demand?
Yeah. So you know what? Yeah. Guys. So thank you. Let me quickly do poor McKinley. Let's talk about poor McKinley, and then I want to share 2 articles with you, and I end at 7:30. Okay. Thank you, Oscar, for that, passing it around. So McKinley, God bless him. He was a good guy. He actually was. He's also known as America's first civil rights president. He was good to African Americans. Anyway, here we go. McKinley tariffs. Well, let me talk about it. So McKinley tariffs in 1890, McKinley tariffs. He was in the House of Representatives, and he pushed a tariff of 70%, 70, on tin plate. So tin plate, that's galvanized tin, coated tin. That was an industry that was just taking off. Canning, which is tins, which is Europe calls tins. Canning was a new technology. And the tin plate industry was the heart of the new technology. So he puts a tariff of 70%, 70 on tin plate. And those are the McKinley tariffs. Now, what happens is everything goes up. The price of food goes up, exactly like we saw. The price of oil goes up because oil is stored in drums, which are galvanized metal. That comes from the same process. So oil prices go up, food prices go up, and housing prices go up, and inflation takes off. And then the Europeans, the rest of the world is hammering us with retaliatory tariffs, just like I went through. And in the midterm elections, now listen carefully, whoever sold McKinley to Trump sold him that, and the fact that robber barons happened. The few people who invested in tinplate became even richer. Store that away. There's a group of people who I showed you earlier in that little segment. You park yourselves on that segment, you get really rich, then you get out before everything tanks. You get out. You short the market, you get out. So here you are, he slaps on the tariffs. In the midterm elections, the Republicans lose 93 seats. They lose power. The Democrats come in. For the next 20 years, the Republicans really don't have power, even though McKinley actually becomes president in 1894. Before that, though, in 1893, there's a massive stock market crash. Why? Because the tinplate people, there was overproduction in tinplate. There was a bubble, like we call SAP bubble in macro, speculative asset price bubble. There's a bubble in tinplate. And those who invested in tinplate sucked in other investors. They bought at 20, 25, they sold to each other, 29, 50, 120. Then the poor schmoes get in at 130. And the guys who initially bought, the handful of robber barons, they're getting out at 130. The poor schmoes are getting on board and the whole thing comes crashing down. That's the classic story of pump and dump, right? And there was a big stock market crash. It was called the Panic of 1893. And then McKinley becomes president, believe it or not, in 1894, and he disavows the tariffs. He says, big mistake. The day before, or a few days before he's assassinated, this is a fact, you can look it up, his last speech was, commercial wars are not profitable. Never go into basically trade wars. Then he gets assassinated. That all seems to have been left out, or Trump conveniently doesn't tell mom and pop America. Now, did America benefit? Was it a golden era? Yeah, because along with the tariff comes the second big wave of immigration. Millions of Italians, Germans, Central Europeans warring in, break their capital. Then the big movement westward. Then the railways, who bought up the land and then people paid them to cut down the trees. And then, so America was growing up. And so that coincided with the growth of America, with the massive big wave of immigration, And so when Trump goes, oh, the tariffs are tied to the golden age, that's known as an identification problem, where something happens, but you don't know which variable to give it credit to. So for example, here the economy does well because millions of immigrants have come in with millions of capital and skills. Well, you took a spoonful of Clorox, which is highly toxic, but then you also had antibiotics, you had the best doctors, you had the best diet, you were in the best hospital for 3 weeks, and you got well. And to say that, oh, you got well because you took that spoonful of Clorox, which is poisonous and deadly, and a certain precedent recommended it at some point in time, I think, is what is happening here. You see that it's called the identification problem when you have lots of data. Which data point do you attribute the growth to? And so that's the golden era which he's tying to tariffs. No, one more time, McKinley disavowed tariffs. God bless him. He said it was a big mistake. They lost 93 seats in the midterm election. There was a stock market crash in 1893, years after. What else can I say? Poor McKinley. He's probably spinning in his grave. Questions, comments? I'm going to share some articles with you. Louis, you look like you're about to say something. All right, let me share some articles here, folks. Let's look at this one here.
I was just seeing some of the comments coming through.
Oh, I'm not seeing any.
You've gone with Clorox, but I'm sticking with ivermectin.
Ivermectin is, Louis?
That's the horse paste. That's equally stupid.
Okay. Ira's here. Hi, Ira. Good to see you. Okay, let me share some articles here. And like I promised you, okay, here, this one's this is the inside of the Custom House. And this is for Dan Stoll. It's a shout out to Dan Stoll, our communications director. This is the Customs House. So back in the day, please understand, there were no taxes. This is in New York City. This is the beautiful roof of the Customs House. It's also the Museum of the American Indian. That's its name today, but it's the old Custom House. And this is how we got our revenues from tariffs in the old days. There was no income tax. So that was one reason why there were duties and customs duties and tariffs back then. And you came into this old customs house and you got really impressed. Oh my God, we're in America. Okay, let's pay our duty here. Let's get a certificate here. We unload our ships and then we can just go down Broadway and all that sort of thing. So I just wanted to show you, you can visit this. Absolutely beautiful. The ceiling is shaped like a ship's hull, apparently. I haven't been in it. Maybe this is the ship's hull, I think. Yeah, the center part here. Yeah, indeed it is. So that's how we did the customs duties. I'm going to stop sharing this. And now let's go into some articles. Go to my screen here.
So Farrokh, what are the chances these countries are going to absorb the cost for the tariffs?
Just a second here. No, they can't. You know, the democracies, they kind of lose face and they have to respond. So here you go. Let's do this one. Okay. So this is Trump's trade war is a loser. This is from Senator Graham. So this is a Graham of Graham Redmond Hollins. If you remember, the Reagan deficit spending, we cut back deficits. This is written in 2023. This is Wall Street Journal, okay? So tariffs destroyed jobs in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and made all Americans worse off. So let's just go down. So here we go. Trump's trade war began in July 2018. He imposed tariffs on steel, aluminum. These tariffs raised the prices of those metals. The number of additional jobs, here you go, created in steel and aluminum were a trifling 1,000 and 1,300. This is the Wall Street Journal. This is Senator Graham, extreme Republican. Graham Redmond Hollins on Reagan's team. Okay, so not Vanity Fair and not New York Times. Okay, here we go. Let's go down. For every American employed making steel or aluminum, 36 were employed by firms that used steel or aluminum as inputs. Exactly what I said earlier. By raising the price of these metals, Trump's tariffs destroyed far more manufacturing jobs than they created. Overall manufacturing employment, this is to the gentleman who said, what if there were more jobs, you would save them? And that was the exam question last week. Can't, it's the scarce factor. Importing is the scarce factor. Exporting is the abundant factor. But that's too much for mom and pop America right now. And I'm not being elitist, it's just too much. That's the state of things today. Overall manufacturing employment fell in each of the 4 quarters of 2019, leaving the pre-pandemic level of manufacturing employment lower than when Mr. Trump took office. There you go. Higher cost of steel and aluminum and Chinese component parts combined with foreign retaliation reduced the American demand, the demand for American exports. Here we go. they can't absorb, if they just absorbed, it might be better to who asked me the question, but countries are forced into retaliate. What are we going to do? Are we going to sit back and take it? We may be Greenland, but we are going to fight. No more butter. No more American beef. We can do without your beef. We don't care. It's not good for us anyway, the red meat. It's not going to. As a result, the growth rate in manufacturing fell. By the first quarter of 2019, it reached a post-Great Recession high low of negative 5.3. Manufacturing output growth continued to fall until its post-lockdown bump. Under Trump's protectionist policy, total manufacturing output was 2% lower by the start of the pandemic than it was when he raised tariffs. And it hurt the states it was trying to protect: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Here we go. Protectionist policies also failed to deliver reductions in the trade deficit. Guys, the trade deficit has become a metric for the Trump administration. It has nothing to do with anything, shocking as this might sound. When we did trade, there was no goal to reduce the trade deficit. Countries that are vibrant and growing have large trade deficits. Here we go. Let's read. When the tariffs went into effect, goods that the US imported became more expensive by reducing demand for foreign goods. Here we go. The capital imports. Protectionism didn't create jobs. The nation was made poorer as prices rose and the American economy became less efficient. Capital inflow declined. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, here we go. Trade, here where my cursor is. Trade deficits under international accounting rules, which we called NSI. Remember NSI, National Savings Identity in macro, right in the beginning? Mean foreigners are investing more in the US than Americans are investing abroad. Capital inflow, trade deficit, capital inflow. Every afternoon, we get $9 billion into our treasuries, folks. Most from Japan today, second China. My generation, Louis and I, and people like Kathleen and us, follow the money. China is parking its money here. Japan more, China, even today, in spite of all this drama. Japan, Germany, Canada, and the UK provide over, they left out China, half of all foreign investing coming into the US last year. Left out China, interestingly. Foreigners invest in America because of their confidence in the US economy and the returns they can earn by investing in the future, which is what we said earlier. Look at this. The US ran trade surpluses in the 102 of the 120 months when Smoot-Hawley dictated trade policy. So let me stop sharing here. So it didn't, bottom line, Trump 1.0 didn't work. It was a disaster. So coming back now, 1890, we have McKinley tariffs. Meltdown, not good. There was a stock market crash in 1893. There was also another stock market crash before that in 1876. That's when the Wizard of Oz was written. Oz means an ounce. The whole Wizard of Oz thing is about the stock market crash. The tornado was the crash. Oz comes from the ounce of silver, and we've done all that in class. So fast forward 40 years, we have the same mistake again. We have the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. So Smoot and Hawley, it's almost like 40 years have gone by and another generation completely has forgotten. So here, last week, and this is Louis Sohrab presented me with this. He's in my graduating class. The New York Times, and you probably can't read this, all in the plastic covering, but it's the one here. Hoover signs the tariff. You can see it. This is the issue on the day it was signed on June 1, 1930. That's the New York Times. And here you go under it, peril to war deaths seen in our tariff. So the Europeans said, okay, here's the deal. Listen carefully now. If you put a 50% tariff, 50, on everything coming from Europe, all the payments we are supposed to make you Americans since we owe you from the war debts, World War I, we can't make. And they didn't make. But capital inflow stopped right there, like we discussed. So huge. And then they retaliated. They slapped us with tariffs. So it's right there on the same page. Interestingly, in the back, they're selling office spots for the Empire State Building. Opening in July. Indulge me here. Here's the ad. The president may live in Westchester. The treasurer in the Oranges. The vice president on Long Island. The homes of the staff are even more widely divided. Yet, everyone finds Empire State to be equally accessible. Suites of 600 square feet. Inquire with Mr. Hamilton Weber. Can you imagine one person for the whole building? I would like his commissions. Empire State. Opening for May 1931. This is June 1930 paper. So, 1930, 1,000 economists write an article in the New York Times begging Hoover, please don't do this. It's a lose-lose. This is one of the few things that economists of all stripes agree to. No one wins, even though Mom and Pop Planet seem to think it makes intuitive sense, and it kind of does make intuitive sense. Trade is not intuitive, guys. Macro might be. Anyway, 3 Rutgers economists were part of the 1,000 who begged Hoover not to do it, but Hoover did it. And of course, we crashed. 2,000 items were tariffed, 2,000. The Europeans hammered us back, and the whole planet spiraled down. And if you added imports and exports of the whole planet, they came to under 6 million. So everything shuts down. Fast forward another 40 years. There's a 40-year cycle. And as I have said to some of you, if I was still writing, I'm done. But if I have to still write papers, I would try and figure out what this 40-year cycle is. Is that the 40-year cycle of human memory, or do we get stupid again? Is it like a stupidity cycle? I don't know what that is. So again, now it's Reagan. Reagan is not that big a trade war guy. He puts only a 5-year tariff. And Joe, you asked me for temporary tariffs? Yeah. So Malcolm Forbes, his buddy, says, Ron, you got to help us. And Ron said, I'm a free trade guy. I don't build walls. I tear down walls, Mr. Gorbachev, all that sort of thing. Take your game up. So he said, all right, fine, 5 years, Harley will get protection. And if Harley cannot get its act together in 5 years, Harley goes. And Malcolm Forbes, who was a big biker, said, thank you, Ron. And so they had, I think, 30% and 25%. So they protected Harley by putting a tariff on Japanese bikes over, I think, 700 cc. And Harley got its act together in 5 years. Ron also hit electronics from Japan. At that time, Japan was the bad guys. Now it's China. Now, what do you think the Chinese, what do you think the Japanese did? Remember what I said, 51-foot wall, a 51-foot ladder? So you put a tariff of, say, 30% on heavy motorbikes coming from Japan, 700 cc. What do you think the 51-foot ladder would look like?
650 cc engine?
Krista, you would think 650 would be a nice, decent number, right? to add insult to injury, you know what they did? 699.
Brilliant.
699. It was like a slap in the face. Like, you want to be stupid? I can be stupid too. How do you even measure 699? I don't know. So they had 699 cc. That's what happens. Anyway, so Reagan, okay. Fast forward 40 years, Trump, Biden, Trump. Biden, by the way, worse than Trump 1.0. Just Biden was Trump without the drama. Trump minus drama was Biden back then. And now Trump 2.0, completely off the wall. So every 40 years, there's this weird tariff cycle. And I can't really explain that. And so, we have Liberation Day today, tomorrow, I think tomorrow. And I say, yeah, it's a great title. It's liberation from our senses, from economic theory. It's a good title, Liberation Day. So that's it, folks.